This is Photoshop from the ground up. I'm your host, Peter Law, photographer and graphic designer. In this episode, we're going to look at how to open files inside of Photoshop. There's lots of ways to do this, and a bit of it depends on what operating system you're running on. But let's look at here. The most basic way to open a photo inside of Photoshop is to go to the File menu and choose Open. I'm going to select what I want from my Finder window on a Mac or my Explorer windows on a PC. And I'm going to click Open, and it's going to bring that document up and open it. I'm going to close the document. I'm going to move Photoshop out of the way. By the way, if you're on a Macintosh operating system, Photoshop might not look like this by default. If you go down and click on Application Frame, this is what it might look like. So if you click on your background, you get out of Photoshop. I find this a little bit annoying, so what I do is I come up to my Window menu, and I choose Application Frame, which keeps it all nicely contained the way it would be on a Windows application. The next way that we can use to open images inside of Photoshop is to grab the file and drag it down to, if you're using Windows 7, you can drag it down to the Photoshop icon on your taskbar, or if you're on the Mac, you can drag it down onto your dock and release it, and there it is. Okay, I'm going to actually close out of that. Another way here is if the file type is associated with Photoshop. I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to push Command-I, that'd be Control-I on the PC, to bring up the document properties. Now, down here in the Mac, it says Open with Adobe Photoshop CS5, and here's how we can select it. So if I decide that I want to open this with a different application, I can select on the drop-down menu and associate this particular file with that. And if I decide that I want to associate all, for instance, JPEGs with Photoshop, I can hit Change All, and that's going to apply that same setting to all the JPEGs on my system, so that if I double-click the JPEG file to open it, it will automatically open inside of Photoshop, which is the case here. All right, going to close that again. I'm going to come into Bridge. Now, Bridge is a standalone application that ships with Photoshop that acts as a file browser. So you can launch it by clicking on the little icon right here. I'm going to go back into Photoshop, or you can say File and go Browse in Bridge. And when you do that, the Bridge application will launch. And here we have folders on my hard drive. The picture I'm looking for is on my desktop, so I'm going to click right there, and I'm going to click on it. Now there's lots of different views inside of Bridge. For instance, if I want to know the keywords, I can look here at this, and this is going to tell me the metadata, which is information about my picture, to tell me the settings I used and the type of camera that I used. But if I just double click on this, it's going to open that inside of Photoshop. And I'm going to exit out of there. Now, Bridge is, as I said, a standalone application, and in CS5 they've added a new panel called Mini Bridge. Now, Mini Bridge is basically a window into the Bridge that allows you to do the things that you do in Bridge without having to leave the Photoshop application. So I'm going to go up to my Window menu. This is where all my panels live, by the way. And if you don't see what you want on here, then you can actually open something else up from here. I'm going to go to my extensions, and I'm going to go down to Mini Bridge. There we are. We've got Mini Bridge. I'm going to drag it over here, and I'm going to dock it when I've got that little blue line appearing on the edge of my panels. Now I've got that docked on the edge of my panels. So I can navigate again. Here's my desktop, and here's the image, and I can just double click on it, and that's how I would open it. So these are lots of different ways to open images inside of Photoshop. Now, a word on file types. Photoshop will open pretty much any file with pixels in it. So if you've got a JPEG, a TIFF, an EPS, a PDF, a PNG, a GIF, Photoshop can open all of them. Photoshop can open movies if you have Photoshop CS3, 4, and 5, or 3, 4, and 5, I believe, extended versions, which is the more expensive one that comes if you buy the educational discount. That's the one you typically get, or if you buy one of the premium suites. So if you buy Design Premium, which is the Adobe Creative Suite that comes with Dreamweaver and Flash, or any of the premium suites, they'll come with the extended version of Photoshop that's got some 3D and video and medical measurement tools and those sorts of things. But if you buy Photoshop as a standalone application, it's about $200 or $300 extra to get the video functionality. So if that's something that's useful to you, great. And if not, I wouldn't worry about it. I never use it pretty much. All right, and that is my recap of how to open files inside of Photoshop.